Hi, everybody. Welcome to this week's episode of Pensado's Place. Bolooki is with us. He's a Grammy-nominated, Grammy-winning, all kinds of awards for producing, songwriting, recording, mixing, engineering, all that stuff. He in just a second. But first, for you, our friends at NuGen have just released Paragon ST. They have an amazing suite of plugins. You can click the link below to learn about them. Next week, Dave and Freddie will do a review of that and a deep dive. Hang in there, check out NuGen. Also, coming up, we're super excited. It's been a long time. NAMM is coming June 3 through 5. We are there 3 and 4 for what I like to call Pensadopalooza, and you want to be there. 5 o'clock, Hall B. We're going to give away $20,000 to $30,000 worth of gear in the first 10 minutes. So get there early. We're going to have incredible panelists. You're going to have a chance to learn and hear new music and see cool stuff. We're going to populate the audience with stars. Get there, be there, and let's have a good time. You know how we do it. And if you don't know, you should come and find out. And our friends at NAMM have made free badges available to you. Now, who loves you like we do? Pensado and NAMM, killing it. All you have to do is go to pensadosplace.tv/NAMM, fill in the information, and be there. But you got to come to our events on Friday and Saturday. Our good buddy Joe Lamont, who's chairman of NAMM, he'll be on next week for a quick segment to update us on where it is. They're getting good numbers, good people coming. He'll update you, and we look forward to that. One of the other things that Dave has been really high on, he has been working closely with John McBride on a new plugin out of a company called Kit that John is involved in. They just swear by it. Some very big names, Justin Niebanks and other things, have sworn by the way this channel strip sounds. We got a quick review for you. Check this out.
Ooh, good to see you guys again. I'm having fun with this today. Hope you do too. Glad to see you. I'm talking about the Neve 1073 plugin. It's a workhorse. Everybody knows it. Everybody uses it. Everybody has one. But there's a new one that's out on the market right now. It's by Kit Audio. It's called a BBN 105. It's an emulation of a console over at Blackbird Studios, owned by John McBride, of course. And it's an 8078 Neve. Now, the modules on this thing, on this console, have been just so well taken care of, and the best components, everything over time. And a lot of people think it's the best sounding Neve 8078 there is, and I don't think it is. I know it is. I've used this board, and don't use it, especially if you live in a foreign country, because you will move to Nashville the next morning just to be around this console. I mean, celebrities fawn over it, and the only negative thing about it is that it's so loved. It's hard to get access to it. You have to stand in a line about 2 miles long to get to work on this console. But anyway, John McBride is one of my heroes, and Blackbird Studios is one of my favorite studios, and it all matches together with this Neve. So one of the things I like to do with the Neve is I like to take auto gain, which is a really, really good feature to have, but I take it off. And so what I'll do is I'll start turning the preamp up. Now, as I'm turning the preamp up, I'm monitoring the fader over here, the output fader, and it's probably safer to start with that down, but I'll pull that down a little bit, make sure I don't blow my headphones out or my speakers out, whatever. And now I've got it paralleled, the Neve. I've got it paralleled into a particular sound. That sound could be a drum part, a kick, snare, a bass, a vocal, and different sounds take different amounts of what you put in it. So experiment, and then once you get the sound that you like, raise that fader up a little bit till you hear it, till you like where it sounds. And so what we're doing is we're adding a little bit of color to the plugin and to the sound. And there's different words for color. Some people call saturation color. Some people call clipping color. Some people call harmonics color. but don't worry about all that. Just do it and use it and name it later. It doesn't need a name. Just name it better. Just remember, less is more. What you hear now that you think is not enough, later on when you hear it on the radio, you're going to go, ooh, maybe that was a little too much, you know? I like to also work with saturation, and kind of at the same time I'm working with the saturation, I'm working with the oversampling. And so sometimes oversampling at 2 sounds better than oversampling at 8. So you've got to check all these things out. And then you that tells you how to deal with your saturation. And I saved the best for last. The fader, you can make any color you want. I like a beautiful blue. I recommend it. I tried all the colors, and the blue one sounds the best. So check that out. Let's see, Sim.
Told you, it's really good. We're going to give away a few of those for the NAMM thing, and much, much more, all kinds of stuff. And now on to Bolooki. Really amazing stuff. Lil Nas X, Billy Ray Cyrus, Post Malone, The Weeknd, Fifth Harmony. He's worked with Linkin Park, a whole bunch of people. 10 number ones total, platinum records, all kinds of stuff. You want to enjoy this conversation like we did, so let's watch it. Here is Bolooki. Hey, dude.
Hey, how are you? Thanks for having us.
No, it's a pleasure to have you. One of the things in listening to the work you do, there's an interesting way that you put the Andrew in it, but it doesn't get in the way of the artist and so on and so forth. There seems to be, is that by design? Is that just your, raison d'etre? Are you specifically thinking that when you do your work?
I mean, it depends what I was hired for. I would say if it goes for like vocal production stuff, that I very much, you got to serve the song, always serve the melody, serve the record. There's certain roles where your opinion's needed. There's certain roles where you're, elevating someone else's opinion and idea, and knowing like where you are in the role of the record, no matter when you actually in the timeline of it got pulled in, is really important, I think. And, for vocal producing, that's something that I never get in the way of the original idea I was given to make the acapella out of. And I take making the acapella really, really seriously, just as serious as the beat maker or the original producer was about the music. I put in just as much effort into the acapella. And to me, honestly, you marry the two and you got yourself a record. So as long as I make sure that I don't get in the way of anybody else, but I'm also making sure that every single word, syllable, emotion is upfront, clear. I'm really big on lyrics and big on like, I hate it when you listen to records and you can't understand what the artist is saying. It drives me crazy.
Yeah.
I know there's some cases where you need to just let the emotion go. Like I get that, but more often than not, clarity in lyrics is what's going to get someone to sing along and really connect with what you're actually saying, not just their interpretation of what you're saying. So there's kind of a balance there where you can really achieve both in like amazing lyrical clarity and not messing with the simplicity of melody when you're actually producing something, and still getting the emotion there by making sure you get enough takes, making sure that, we figured out the lane that you need to go. Now let's actually hammer it through by getting, 5, 6, 7 of those, however many I can get out of somebody, and then assembling it after the fact so they don't get bogged down with the technical stuff during the session.
Yep.
On Old Town Road, I'll use that for an example because everybody knows it. I noticed on all your work, you have an incredible ability to make the vocal work with the track. And on that song, I don't know how you got Billy Cyrus into the track so thoroughly when it was the track was kind of a bit static at that moment in time.
Yeah.
And can you give us a couple of pointers on how to keep the vocal and the track
That
together? It's really hard.
that experience was very challenging because the entire mix was done over a 2-track.
Mm-hmm.
So just through like my own experience of having to deal with that situation, you can still mix some stuff without actually, mixing stuff. Yeah. And that comes through arrangement. So where there's parts of the track that are bigger, wider, deeper, whatever. In the original version of that song, the recording was just done to the 2-track and nobody arranged it or actually put any thought into like which part should go where. It was just kind of done organically. And it's got, the charm of something that was done organically. And that's why it really latched a lot of people. But when it came time to do the remix, that was a commercial bullseye, so that required a little bit more thought on the musical arrangement, but there was, there were no stems or anything else to mess with. So I ended up chopping up the music as needed and then actually arranging those parts. So the biggest part of the track came in during where the chorus was, and then, it chilled out during the verse. And that's not, if you actually compare the original with the remix, the music's not actually arranged the same. Mm-hmm. But that was just another, something in the bag of tricks that when you run out of options, that's just another, you can create another option for yourself. So that's all that I could really do on the music side. Again, like I said before, keeping true to what the material you were given to work with. I wasn't trying to rearrange anybody's idea. It was more like doing what I needed to do to it to make it sound amazing without also triggering any alarms that, hey, this sounds different. I don't want the different. I just want the better. Mm-hmm. So if I can get somebody to think, oh, this just sounds better, without them nitpicking what I actually did, then I know that was a win. So for Old Town Road, if you can imagine, there was just like an already painted canvas, and then I had to take more paint on top of it and actually just sew it on top without disturbing what was there. Mm-hmm. It was challenging, but I got through it by making Billy do, we got well over 200 takes of all the different parts of the songs, in total.
Sure.
And I had told him at the time, and I think he was on the same page as me, that nobody really knew exactly how it was supposed to come out. It was just kind of an idea to see what this would sound like. Mm-hmm. So without any expectation from anybody, I just knew enough at that point that, you don't want to do a back and forth with the label people on asking them questions, because it kind of makes them think that, oh, maybe we should give this to somebody else or something like that. I want to turn in a home run on bounce one. So I had him do as many different versions as possible of different feelings, different emotions, different everything. And then I ended up using almost all of the takes we did. Mm. But what I did was I used a ton of automation, ton of panning, a lot of EQ to really just find spots for every voice, every tonality, every piece of material he gave me. And I even went back into Lil Nas's original Pro Tools session and made extra doubles and stuff out of his leftover material, which there wasn't really that much to pick from, but I was able to dig some stuff out. And just, laying all the cards out in front of me, it was a huge task to take on. And it was it really was about 10 days or so of just comping.
Wow. Wow.
Because I kept doing it. And then the next day I'd wake up super, from getting a little bit of sleep, but then you hear it differently the next day. And I'm like, okay, I know earlier in the day that when we did the recording, I had him do this like this or this like this. And I go back into the bag of takes and then apply something over here, apply something over here. All in all, it was just a lot of panning and automation, but I ended up getting it to balance just right. And then I backed away from it, and I was like, I'm not touching this anymore. It's perfect.
It's one of my favorite vocals ever. I worked with him too, and he's a little difficult to get into the mix, but what you did with him was incredible. It was worth the time. Well, all the little details you did, the breaths in between, and all that stuff, and
there was a lot of detail work that no one will ever know but me, because I was the only one that was there. But I appreciate that you appreciate it.
Well, and also I was going to say, well, little known fact: Billy Ray Cyrus and I are from the same place in Kentucky, but that's a whole other story.
I didn't know that, Herb.
Yeah. But the thing that in the way that you work that I think is always characteristic of people who end up becoming successful and moving towards something is the openness to the accident that works. Like when you're constantly doing something, right? Like something will come up you didn't expect. And what you know is not to get rid of it, that may be the very thing that works, but you have to be open to that.
There was a lot of happy little accidents that Billy Ray was like, even some takes he was like kind of joking around. Like the vibe of the session was fun as hell. Like it was one of the most fun sessions we've had. It was challenging, but the challenge and the potential reward you could see at the light at the end of the tunnel that, this is going to come out amazing. They were neck and neck with each other. So it kept making me want to push and try different ideas. And like, he would be like, hey, well, why don't I just try one, in like a Johnny Cash kind of voice? Or why don't I try one? Like, he's not somebody to sing falsetto, but I was like, hey man, just imitate somebody that's singing falsetto just like you. Like literally start imitating people.
Right.
And what it ended up doing, and this wasn't something that I consciously did at the time, but it ended up working afterwards, was that after we did all those takes of just kind of what I thought was like ridiculousness, even if it was a ridiculous idea, I still had him do it twice so I could make it double just in case it was awesome later.
Right.
But when I went back to go edit and comp everything, there's a point at the end of the song where it kind of sounds like a gang chorus. It gets bigger at the end. But all it is him imitating himself in many different voices.
Oh, I love it.
And the thing is that wasn't anyone's really idea. It's just the way I edited that song was that I went, and I was, like I said, I wasn't sure what I was going to use. So I just corrected and comped every idea he had.
Wow. And
I was like, I know if I go through this process, the light will show itself of the path I'm supposed to go. I'll be able to see which one's the strongest takes, whatever, and I'll be able to figure it out. But I need to correct everything first. But the thing is that after I corrected everything, just for the hell of it, I hit play on all the tracks and just let them go. And I was like, holy shit, this sounds amazing. This sounds like we did an intentional like chorus, but we didn't. But it's because he was able to do so many different things with his voice. He was almost like working with a voice actor. It was amazing.
Right. Wow.
And I think too, when I've worked with a couple of artists that are like, I want to call them, like a legacy artist, where a really modern recording setting is not
right
how they built their career.
Yep.
So his older recordings and other artists I work with, their older recordings are like either, on tape. There was backup singers, like real backup singers. There was a band. There was a live element going on. Nothing was perfect. And that's what made them shine. That gave them their authenticity.
Yep.
This time around, though, with Old Town Road, there's the country western sample, the Nine Inch Nails sample, but the 808s are all perfectly in tune. The hi-hats are perfectly on the grid. Like there's not that much really wavering going on. So when you put his voice over something like that, it sounded out of place because he's a live like singer that will wow you with the tonality of his voice. But when it comes trying to put somebody like that on the grid, it sounds uncomfortable. Sounds a little weird.
Yeah.
So, and ironically, auto-tune did not work on his voice. Even while we were tracking, like
I had that problem too.
Some people, it's just, and I call it like a realness because it's only been like this with people who have really like just been through some shit in life, and they have undeniable, like he sounds like a real cowboy when he talks. Like that's not a joke. So like auto-tune and some of those auto-correcting programs, they just weren't built to handle those situations.
Yeah.
So there's something about it where it didn't work.
He starts every note a little flat, and he comes up into the note somewhere along the way, and you never know where it's going to be. It could be like in a microsecond, or he might not ever make it.
But if you treat it with enough like respecting that,
oh yeah,
and not trying to just fix it, because if you just try to fix something like that, you're now taking the life out of it, and the life,
it works. Yeah, there's no
the way he approached it is what makes it awesome. That's what really put the country stamp on it. So there was a lot of like, okay, if he started something and kind of swooped into it, that's the twang. I'm not trying to take out the twang. I'm trying to maximize the twang. So I'd go find the takes that had even more of an elaborate like swoop to it. And I'm like, okay, I'm using that syllable here, because this is making it as if you took the country knob and turned it up to 11. But those are those things that like auto-tune's not smart enough to know the difference between that. That's something where I go to just hand comping, and Melodyne will do amazing things. But even that too is like, that's not an automated process for me. That is just I couldn't do it by comping by hand. So I need this little extra technology boost, and it's going to do it transparently.
Yep.
But by no means am I trying to like correct anybody. I'm just trying to enhance what they were going for in the first place.
And if all of you ever visit Boyd County, Kentucky, we all sound like we're on auto-tune or Melodyne. That's the way we talk.
Right.
Do you play? Is there an instrument that you play?
I'm a guitar player.
Oh, that's right. For years, you've been a guitar player. And so when you're writing, do you write on your axe? What do you?
It depends. I put it this way. I started playing guitar when I was like 10 or so.
Mm-hmm.
I got really good for a 10-year-old, maybe up until the age of 16, and then I just stopped practicing. So I to be totally honest, I haven't gotten any better since then.
Gotcha.
And music theory-wise, I'm not really a theory person. That I just kind of like
feel.
Yeah. It's frustrating. I learned everything by ear. So a lot of times if I'm speaking like music to somebody who's a real musician, it's like we're speaking two different languages. I'll just like point at the fret you're talking about.
Right.
But it doesn't matter because it works, because what happens is when you don't know how to play piano, when I approach a piano, I literally just close my eyes and go like that. Sometimes it's awesome. Sometimes it's not. But I know enough now to just always be recording, because chances are I can't do it twice.
That's right.
Then edit the shit out of it later, and it's fine.
Yep. No, that's.
I use MIDI to the full extent of the law. So I can get through it. I have an iPad around me at all times. I got plenty of little MIDI programs on my iPhone. Like I don't leave home without them, because I know I'm not a keyboard player, but I just accommodate for my limitations in music theory by thinking ahead, and preparing for it.
Are there tools in your toolbox, plugins and other things that have become just your go-to holster that you can have it augment, fix, look at, discover, help you out? What's your go-to stuff? What's your go-to stuff?
For writing, there's one little iPad app that I show everybody, and they think it's super cool, especially if they don't play piano. Now that I'm thinking about it here, hold on, let me grab the actual name of the app. So not.
Yeah, because I want to download it and mess around.
Okay, it's called Chord Poly Pad, right? It's a little independent developer. But what the guy did is he basically set up like it's like an MPC layout almost.
Yep.
And each one of these squares just triggers MIDI. It just sends out a MIDI chord. And there's a lot of programs that do that, but this one in particular just resonated with me, where you can just kind of hold down one little pad. I figure out the chord I like through a lot of trial and error.
Right.
Go to the next pad, figure it out. Before you know it, you got 3 or 4 of them. You got a chord progression.
Yep.
And I'll do that work ahead of time before I get to a session. I have a list of chord progressions saved that I like, that I can transpose however I want. And then a lot of times that'll an idea I did right as I was falling asleep a month ago, I'll do it really quickly in with my AirPods and just like make a couple of progressions the day before a session.
Yeah.
And you never know. Those ideas come up and like knock something out of the park.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, man, I'm so glad I did that work ahead of time.
Absolutely.
Like 5 minutes of prep, but it saved me that day.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Andrew, I've noticed that a lot of your songs have multiple people on the process. And so that means that you're collaborating with a lot of different people with different personalities. And having talked to you for a while today, I can see you get along pretty good and know how to do that very well. But do you have any techniques where you can share with us where like say an entry level guy has a friend? What are the rules for good collaborating, and how can you maximize that process?
It's a great question. I would say my most successful sessions, collaboration wise, is just making sure that your personalities get along. It always helps. It's not necessary, but it helps.
Yeah.
But also just, if you were the coach of a basketball team and you were assembling a superstar squad, you're not going to put 5 centers on the same team. You know what I mean? So you have to deliberately know that, okay, this person does what I cannot do. And this person, when they, even if I'm collaborating with another guitar player, even though I play guitar, I put the guitar away that day. I let the guitar player do what they want to do. And then I just have the producer and sound designer hat on that day. And I say, we just jam out an idea, chord progression, whatever. And then I take it and I don't try to correct what they did or mess with their space. I just add to it, enhance, give notes, whatever. A lot of times if you have 2 people that do literally the exact same thing, if you got 2 beat makers right next to each other, you're just going to make a beat. You're not going to make a song. Right. Sure, the kick drum sounds awesome, but that's not, when you're listening on a phone, nobody cares.
Right. Absolutely.
And I personally work very well with songwriters who they have a producer mentality, but not necessarily a producer's patience. Right. And I come in because I have a lot of patience, mostly through vocal producing. You just have to have patience. And I let them do their thing. And then I just kind of wait until the idea is awesome or close enough to awesome where I know I can grab on it and be like, okay, I know exactly what to do with this. Why don't we actually flip these chords here? Why don't we change these notes here? Whatever. I kind of wait for them to do the spark, and then I catch the spark, if that makes sense.
What vocal producers do you admire in the business?
I mean, the legends like Kook, of course, look up to him. I mean, there's a lot of people I want to say they may have the title of engineer, but they're really vocal producers. Vocal producing is very much, I'm sure you guys have talked to a lot of vocal producers. It's the grayest of gray areas.
That's kind of why I asked, actually.
Because what you really are is a record finisher.
And I think it's interesting you're defining that. We have, over the last 2 years, probably pre-COVID, we have talked and almost created this, not we just only, but we've defined it as kind of everybody's now a hybrid. Yeah. You start a song and you give it to somebody who used to have a specialty, but they're just continuing what happens and they do their thing and somebody else takes it. And so you kind of have to be versed in a lot of different things to keep that sort of song chain going and then have it end up where everybody has put a bit into it, but they all kind of understand whatever else. And so the people that are now doing what they're doing are kind of have multiple hats. An engineer will be a vocal producer, a producer will be a songwriter, a mixer will be, that we know mixers who literally, there's only a few, but who are valued for their A&R chops. Yeah. And they want stuff in it. So it's a really interesting thing because now it's a different set of sort of muscles and stuff that you use and a different set of tools that you have to learn to integrate. So there's innovation inside this hybrid thing.
in one way, it could be frustrating because, if you've really honed in on a niche skill and you want to maximize it and, monetize it the best you can, and then somebody throws you a curveball and you're like, hey, I actually wasn't hired for this. There's two routes you can go. You can go, hey, I wasn't hired for this, or like, watch what I do.
Let's work it out. Absolutely.
Yeah. And, through vocal producing, I started vocal producing, to be totally honest, as a pure business decision.
Sure. I get it. Yep.
I realized that the hack, quote unquote, was that as soon as you call yourself a vocal producer, your paperwork changes.
Yes. Yep.
Now you need a production agreement.
Yep.
And that is how your credits don't get lost, because now they're a paper trail.
That's right.
Granted, at the end of the day, you may get paid exactly the same. You may get paid less. It doesn't. It depends on the gig. But my stress level went down considerably, knowing that no matter what, at the end of the day, I have an actual contract, just like any other producer does, and I have terms we've agreed to. Ideally before the work started. Realistically, that's almost never the case, but it is what it is. But yeah, I started getting into vocal producing just to get out of the I'm not really sure what I'm doing land and just put a name to it.
Mm-hmm.
But still, I realized very quickly that even people at labels don't understand what a vocal producer is, or they don't understand it, or they just don't care.
100%. 100%. And I tell you where this, I think, is great for our audience is what we do, what we all do. You're naturally, whether you're born to it or not, you are going to be entrepreneurial. You are going to at least take care of your business, even if your team does, but you have to oversee your business. That's one. Two, that the notion of having that hybrid thing made, as you said, change the structure of what you need to do, but structure you need to have in order to get payment and to get other kinds of things and so on and so forth. And also to grow and be credited properly. And don't see that as unimportant because you're so focusing on the creativity. The creativity is your baby. You got to raise the baby. And then the baby will turn into an outstanding young adult that you like, that actually supports you. And so that balance becomes important. And now the balance has this hybrid component to it. So not only are you got different creative skills, you got sort of different business skills. And if you stay flexible, and that's the joy of being part of a technological evolution that constantly is changing. And so you kind of have to look at it that way and use it to inspire your music.
Yeah, as long as you don't get set in your ways. That's another thing I noticed coming up was like my buddies who I kind of, just being observant, I was just like, they had a run and then they kind of stopped.
Yes.
For whatever reason. And yes. I don't know if it was by choice, but it just is what it is. But then I would talk to them and like, they're still using the exact same techniques they did 10 years ago.
Yep.
But you can't be like that. Or you can't ever think that you're like, you've accomplished it all or learned it all. Because as soon as you do, you turn off your ears to learning something new. Mm-hmm. And that I think is, silly because like you said, the technology never stops changing. Plugins will never stop coming out. New sounds will never stop happening.
And therefore the rules change. And so when there was a moment where you went to particularly mix engineers because of the secrets they held. You went to Manny for something. You went to Dave for something. And really Dave is actually the person responsible for sort of being open source about it and saying, well, I'm not going to have, this is before Pensado's place. He would share stuff. And then whenever we came along, the thing that we learned and took advantage of and being first mover was, wait, throw open the doors, share like hell, introduce people to other people, and boom, it sort of took off. But even what we've seen in terms of evolving, that even that affects our show, is that you've got to be able to, and those who don't change end up kind of being put on a shelf. Mm-hmm. And what I call legenditis kicks in, where they go, oh man, here's Ronnie Ranson. Remember when he did and he was incredible, but it's all past tense.
Yeah.
And so they're honoring you, but they're not hiring you.
Yeah.
And so you don't have to age in our business. You just have to stay current.
True.
And then sometimes your age is an advantage, you know, and I think guys like yourself who have both the perspective and the multiplicity of roles really are models for people moving forward about you can be this too. Now you can get to the cheat codes, cut to the chase, figure out your style, make it applicable. But as I call it, stay on the surfboard. You want to just stay up. You don't have to look pretty, but you have to stay up till the waves flatten out.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
It's really important. And I think that, you know, I'm glad that you keep calling and bringing it up, this hybrid thing, because it's unfortunate that in order to get paid and credited, you must label yourself. You had to have done something. So you have to put a name to it.
Yeah.
But those people who were in the studio know that you just were like, some people just do it all. They're like, you know, seat fillers, so to speak, and track fillers, whatever. And they just see a problem and think, okay, this needs A, B, C, and D to get done. It doesn't matter what I was hired for. I know that these are the opportunities available to me. If you do things people didn't hire you for, you know, the risk is on you. But like with the case with Old Town Road or any like just chance random fluke of a session, if I didn't say yes to an engineering day, even though I didn't want to engineer, I wouldn't have gotten that certificate. It literally came down to yes or no on a text message. Do I feel like working today? I just happened to say yes. Thank God that I did. Yeah. But that opened the door to, hey, this is a situation where nobody really understands what's going on, and you do. Yeah. So like,
love that.
Granted, you could send it back and be like, well, that's all you guys paid me for. Or I can be like I said before, watch what I can do. Absolutely. And that's how I treated that situation, because I also, you know, looking up to that point, it had been 8 years since I moved to Los Angeles, and like just very random, all over the map placements. There was no real path to what I was doing. And I kind of felt like I was just waiting for something to happen to me. And I was just over, like, I just knew that wasn't going to, something just wasn't just going to like appear as like this perfect opportunity that I thought about at all times. I'm going to see a diamond in the rough and make it mine.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what I did with this. And I did the most work I possibly could to it. I had never mixed a record before in my life. Wow. This is practically my only and first mix credit I ever had.
So hell of a track record.
They decided to go with my bounce. Thank God. But I used it just as an opportunity to spring forward, and then thank God it was a historic record, because it was easy to get people's attention after that. Oh. And I'd been through that situation, not on that magnitude, but been through the situation before with having somebody single and doing a significant amount of work to it. And I didn't know what to do with the opportunity at the time. That happened enough that this time around, I was like, I practically had the emails written already. Yeah. And I was like, as soon as these credits are fixed or legitimized, whatever, as soon as I know somebody else can double check what I said and it's true. But the day that happened, it was mass emailing out, start the networking, hitting the ground running. Let's set up sessions. Let's do this, meetings, whatever. I squeezed that fruit for the most I could possibly get out of it.
So you're down to rind. All the juice is gone.
And that was a complicated situation too, because a lot of people worked on that song, and it just, the technicalities with it being a remix, it's a long story, but like, it was a big business, like, industry loophole to call it a remix and then call another one a remix of a remix, and then like nobody even understood what was going on, and you could tell. But either way, they just figured, they cracked the code and figured out how to keep it number one forever. I'm not complaining about that. It had nothing to do with me. But
Andrew, I just had a thought. It's about time, I guess. So going back a couple of paragraphs, I don't believe that we should, as engineers, that we should tell our clients what we did or how we did it. But I think it's perfectly okay to play them a little before and after, so they can see what you did. and so I do that a lot. But I don't go into the details. Like I like to create a performance, because if you're working with headphones on, you're going to have a different performance than if you're out in front of 30,000 people. And so what I do is I try to manipulate with clip gain, and create a performance. And I don't want them to see all that stuff, but I want them to hear the before and after. And so that works pretty good.
The before and after thing is that's a kind of a hot topic. I've had a discussion I've had with other people. It's like, how do you feel about playing a before and after mix? How do you feel about playing a before and after comp or something? Because you know how much of a difference it made. But
let them see how proud you are of what you accomplished.
They may or may not care. Who knows? But that's really the only way you can like objectively value yourself is a before and after, because you cannot deny a before and after.
Right.
But 99.9% of people never hear the before. And the before, if you're a mixer or an engineer, that is your bread and butter. Like that, the before is the starting point, and this is how I made this better. Like that's your value. But it's almost like a photographer showing the before unedited photos of somebody they took pictures of. It's not really flattering to the artist to do that, Right. So that's something that I like. I don't like sending people befores or sending people roughs.
Well, you have to do it in person. Absolutely.
Yeah. It has to be. You have to do it like consciously, and it has to be like a purposeful like presentation of what you did.
Mm-hmm.
But it's definitely a good idea to like, even before you start working on something, just make a bounce real fast of like, this is where it was when y'all gave it to me. Mm-hmm. So there's no denying. This is what I received. This is what I turned back. If you have any questions, just put the two up next to each other. Because for a long time, as through my career, I had just had a habit of not sending anybody a rough. And to me, that was like, it helped build some anticipation. It's like, oh, we can't wait to hear this. The amount of times I've heard, we can't wait to hear this, which really means, where the hell is my MP3?
Right. That's true.
It was cool. It made me feel like, I can't wait to play this for you. But on the other hand, it also like, sometimes people at the label would think that they just received the gift of all gifts via MP3 in their email, but they have no idea why it took a week to get that MP3 done.
Yep.
And I never played them the why. I never played them the before, and they weren't there. They might not even been in the same state. So like, they have no idea. They just coordinated a session via email, and they're just expecting something back. But now I've kind of changed my mentality where like, I'm definitely taking a snapshot before I do all this work. And definitely having the snapshot afterwards, which is the MP3, and like, just in case I need it, I got them.
Yep, absolutely.
It's not a bad idea.
Now the question is if your tenure in Hollywood, Florida, now backed with being in LA since 2010, has improved your bat speed, because Batter's Box is coming up, and I have a feeling, Dave, he's going to be a tough out.
I can take him.
In fact, Bolooki.
Maybe not.
You sure you can, Dave? Because
I can.
It is the host of different it is just a cavalcade of confusing last names here. We got Bolooki, Pensado, and Trawick, and not anybody, if they didn't see us, could ever put what kind of nationality or anything with us.
You sound like a weird law firm.
Yeah. Bolooki, Pensado, and Trawick. If you want your lawsuit fucked up, contact us. All right, Dave, tee it up. Let's see what you do.
Okay, remember one word if you can. Melody.
King.
Clipping.
Please don't.
Love that.
Tapes or tubes?
Tubes.
MS.
More S than M.
Sounds kind of.
No, I can go somewhere. I do that.
Virtual synths.
Diva.
Consoles.
Volume knob. means nothing to me.
Major or minor key?
Minor.
Harmonies. Not harmonies, but harmonies. I love harmonies.
A third never hurt anybody, you know?
Yeah, I quit. I quit. I'm out. Okay, I can make it through this. 808s.
Flip them softly.
Summing.
Don't do it. Not my thing.
Favorite BPM.
Lately, I'm going for like 93, 94.
Oh,
good year.
What one plugin can you not live without?
Melodyne.
All right, Herb. I'll be the first to say it. He got me. He slid a curveball on number 7 or 8, and that threw me off, man. That was pretty good stuff.
Well, part of it is the poker face. You don't know that you're about to be slapped upside the head because he just looks congenial.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden you're woozy and you don't know where it comes from. So those types you have to be aware of.
I've been training for this batter's box for a long time.
I see. You're loose. You're ready to go.
That's good. Great job, by the way.
Absolutely. I know good things are on the horizon and the phone is ringing and your contributions we're going to continue to hear from. What we hope is you stay close with us because we are big fans. We want to do a shop talk on your new studio. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
We will set that up for sure. And look, I just think that it's inspiring for people coming up and people being in the business and people who sometimes have had their run to hear from guys like yourself that, wait, here's a way that things can happen. And here are multiple hats that can happen. And you don't always have to approach it the same way. Our belief is that audio is everywhere and that there is a job or an opportunity. You just have to look outside the normal stuff.
Pivoting's cool, you know?
We're cool. Audio's cool now. I say this because I'm sort of proud of it, even though it's not. When I see a national commercial for Indeed, which is a job hiring site, and they go, your record studio is blowing up, but your engineer is leaving too. Who do you use to replace it? And I was like, wait, this is on like, ABC TV. Like that was unheard of ages ago. So
it's amazing.
We're in the cool club. Absolutely. Andrew, thank you so much. And Dave, why don't you take us home, buddy?
Today, when I was listening to Andrew, the thought crossed my mind that opportunities are all around and we never see them. Like my success through you 100%, Herb, I couldn't have planned that. I couldn't have made that happen. And so all that to say, become as good as you can, get out there and do as much as you can, be as visible as you can. And just when the opportunity comes, be ready for it, because that's the way that probably 80% of the people on our show have gotten success. So think about that. I think you should add something to that, Herb, because you're more.
The thing I would add to that is absolutely nothing. It is true. We are. Here's the short version. With the changes, the silos no longer exist. The opportunities are everywhere. They're legion. I know in the education space I'm heavily involved in, it's amazing what was been missing in school. They're now putting back into school. And instead, audio is now at the tip of the spear because that's the gateway drug to learning. Come in, learn how to make a beat, learn how to do something for the songs. That's a huge space. We're seeing it involved in technological evolutions. Obviously, the tools that are coming along. It is definitely global. All the streamers, so we've had Netflix on this show, and their requirements for audio are insane, just insane, because audio is critical. And in that thing, as you guys know, we try to look. We've done an anatomy of a wildfire and what the soundtrack of a wildfire sounds like. We're doing a hospital and sound and medicine, and all kinds of stuff. I just had cataract surgery and spent 20 minutes talking to the doctor how they use ultrasound to break up the cataract, which is, I was like, what the hell? Can I do a show on that? So we're working on that. So the bottom line, as Dave said and Andrew has said, your universe is wide, prepare for it, stay sharp, be visible, and then the opportunities are going to come from thinking outside the box as well as inside the box. And that makes you hot and hireable and make money and do living and contribute to this amazing space we're in pop culture. And we'll see you next week.